Happy Wednesday, everyone, and happy St. Patrick's Day to all of our viewers. My name's Regina Lena, and welcome to another episode of the Pageant Sit Down. I am really excited because I have a very young and inspiring woman here with me today. She is none other than your Royal International Miss Canada 2020 or 21. Her name is Michayla Del Guidice. I hope I said that right. Hi, Michayla.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be Pageant Sit Down.
I hope I said your last name right. I know I've been practicing it before we went live.
It's Del Guidice, but it's one
Del Guidice.
of
Okay.
the names that are very complicated.
I'm tried. I'm so sorry. But Michayla, thank you so much for joining us today. For those who don't know you, do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
For sure. So, hi, everybody. My name is Michayla Del Guidice. I am the current 2021 Royal International Miss Canada. I have a platform called Real Resiliency, so I'm hoping to bring both to the international stage in July. So, I'll be leaving July 9th to July 19th, so I'm incredibly excited.
That's amazing. And Michayla, you have a beautiful crown on your head. I absolutely love it. And it's from the RIM pageant. Can you tell us a little bit about what RIM is?
So the Royal International Miss Canada pageant and the RIM system altogether is a pageant that really emphasizes confidence, body positivity, volunteerism, positive pageantry. It's one of those systems that really are a sisterhood. So one thing that I absolutely loved is 3 hours after I was crowned Miss Canada, it was like I got girls from all over the world messaging me saying how happy they were that I was joining them in international. So it's honestly just a big, massive sisterhood. It is such an incredible system that I fell in love with years ago, and I actually competed back when it was National Canadian Miss, and now I'm still here and finally have the crown. So it's taken me 2 years to get the national crown. But it's very special because it gives you two opportunities to win an international title. So there's Royal International Miss Canada, and then there's Royal International Role Model Canada. And it's two separate categories. So I competed in both. And basically what it was is you would get the RIM Canada title if you win first place, and then whoever was second runner up would also get role model. But it's not one of those ones where role model is necessarily like a backup, or it's not like it's not runner up. It's a whole separate title together. So there's different eligibility. Like for instance, for RIM Canada, you only had to have 5 volunteer hours, where role model you'd have to have 10 hours worth volunteering. So it's very two distinct opportunities, but at internationals, it gives you that opportunity to represent your country on two separate levels. So basically you're competing for 2 crowns, which is really nice.
That's awesome. And so you've been competing in the system for 2 years now. Was this your first that you competed in?
I did younger pageants, but they were more, if anyone on here is watching, I did baton twirling, which is where you kind of fling a stick up in the air. And I did that for the first, oh my gosh, wow. I did dance for about 13, 14 years. So it was basically very similar to how you would get crowned, but you didn't have a title. Like it was a title, but it was more of here's your reward, but you're not going to do anything with it. It's more of a crown and a sash that would sit on your dresser. Whereas I found with this pageantry, it's you have a voice, you have the opportunity to represent your country on a whole nother level. Whereas with the Miss Majorette pageant, which what it was called, it was just you would get it if you won. So you didn't really like hold the title or anything. This was my first time in a pageant where you would have a reign. So that was super special to me. And as a person who loves to volunteer, I call myself an obsessive volunteer. I loved the opportunity for pageantry that I was able to have this voice, but also be able to volunteer, and just being able to represent my community is just amazing.
Mm-hmm. And I saw on your Instagram, your tagline is be you, be resilient. Can you tell us a little bit about where that came from?
So I grew up in a world where success was not my definition. It was not within my grasp. So at the young age of 8 years old, I was told, you will never go to post-secondary education. You will never have a voice for yourself. You don't have the mental capacity to be anything, and that you would live in a home for adults with disabilities, and that would be all you would. That was what I was labeled as at a young age. And real resiliency came from that drive to prove everybody wrong, that I was able to do something, but I also want to instill that in other people. So Be You, Be Real, Be Resiliency is actually the title of my book, which I'm currently working on. So that's where that tagline kind of comes from, is the book is going to be about my story growing up and how no matter what had happened, I was able to cultivate my resiliency and be where I am today. So it's really just about being your most authentic self and taking the oppression that you're facing and changing that language and being that change that you need for yourself.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. I know you were talking a little bit earlier about breaking barriers as being a person with a disability, being Indigenous, and being a woman. So you are really breaking boundary or barriers there, and you're making other people look up to you. I have a friend who I actually interviewed with back in, I think it was February, and I was talking about pageantry and my experience, and his daughter has a disability. And it reminded me of my conversation with him because I said, oh, your daughter might one day do pageants if that's something that she's interested in. And he specifically said, it'll have to be a pageant with disabilities or for people with disabilities. And I was like, no, that's not how it works. She can be that person and that voice, and that's exactly who you are. So I think that's amazing.
Exactly. Like, I want my entire goal for pageantry is, I absolutely love it as being a hobby, but pageantry has been my voice. And for so many years, I was diagnosed with a communication disability at 8 years old. And then also having all these labels on me, I didn't have a voice. I didn't have anything. I just lived my life. And it wasn't until, when I found pageantry, literally in 2019, where my voice got so much stronger. And it was finally that my voice was heard. And that's why pageantry so much, is because I have that opportunity to inspire young children and older people with disabilities that you can do anything regardless of those psychoeducational assessments that told you can't do anything, and those people who say, oh, you have a disability so you can't do something.
That's crazy. The fact that you were labeled with a communications disability, I'm listening to you speak and your communication is very impeccable. So I can't imagine what life would have been if you didn't learn to use your voice and find your voice. So I think that's amazing. And like I said, you are inspiring so many people, not just younger than you, but also those who are looking at you who might be Indigenous or might have a disability and not realize that they can do anything that they're capable of, regardless of what people say. So that's amazing. And it's such an honor to have you on our show, for you to be able to use your voice and share your story with everyone.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's definitely, having the opportunity to sit here and tell what I've been through. I've battled mental health as well. My mental health has been to a point where I didn't believe in myself. I battled self-harm for over 10 years. And this has just given me that platform where, I am beautiful. And, being a person who isn't the ideal skinny, doesn't fit that certain pageant criteria, it gave me that confidence that I am beautiful. And it really made me look at it and said, like, beauty it's not physical. It's what you do and who you are that is true beauty. And I just love that about pageantry, where it can bring so many people together. And being able to sit down and share all the things I've been through. I come off as a very powerful person now, and I'm so proud of who I am. You'll even ask, my coach is Maria Orlando, and I started working with her in August, and I had no confidence. And I think that's what happened with my last pageant is I wasn't winning because I didn't have that confidence and I didn't have that ability to believe that I was important. And it was almost like hearing those voices again in your head being like, you aren't anything. You have a disability. You can't do those things. And, you know, now looking at where I'm at, I'm proud to say that, you know, I'm beautiful and I am resilient, and now I'm able to share that with people. Like I've, you know, sat down with over 150 people and talked virtually. I started this all during a pandemic and talked virtually to people about my story, but as well as how you can cultivate resiliency in your daily life. And it's just absolutely amazing.
Honestly, your story is just so inspiring. I mean, just hearing you have to say and hear. I'm excited to hear or see and read your book when it's ready. So I'm excited for that. What made you go from maybe thinking about it or not even realizing it, but wanting to write a book?
Everyone always told me that I should write a book. It was always, I started speaking about my disability, I believe it was 2017. So it's quite recent when I started talking about my experience with a disability, but also my experience with mental health and being a survivor of childhood trauma. So it was, a lot of people told me you should write a book. And I always was like, I'm not good enough for that. I'm not, you know, my story isn't important enough for that. And it was, you know, talking to Maria Gerlando, who's my coach again, and, you know, hearing her say, like, you are so fascinating and people will love to hear your story. It was that moment where I said, somebody like her who was looking at me and telling me that my story is inspiring was like, you know, if she's, you know, in the position where she is and she's telling me that I'm inspiring, that must mean something. And it was almost like this sudden shift where I was like, I am unique and my story is unique, and talking about, you know, my family situation and growing up where I did, and just, you know, trying to get my story out there is really what I wanted to write a book. When it came down to what I would write about my book, I thought, what stage of my life was my most vulnerable? And it was when I was young and when I was experiencing that childhood trauma. So I wanted to write a children's novel for children with disabilities, for maybe children who are Indigenous, who are having these societal oppressions, because everybody in Canada basically has an oppression attached to them, whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, whether you have a disability, whether the color of your skin, you have some form of societal oppression. And I want to inspire the world how to change that language from, I can't do this because of this. So like, for instance, like this year I graduated, I'm a 2020 grad, and I got low marks from it because I didn't believe in myself whatsoever. And I told myself when it came down to applying to my master's, I said, I'm not going to be able to get in my master's because I have a disability, which was a label that was put on with me for so many years ago. And out of a whim, I went and applied for my master's and I got in. And it was like, okay, like what I've been telling myself for so long and the oppression that I've faced for so long isn't true. So why am I still thinking this way? So I really want to teach the world how to change that language so that you are inspiring yourself to be resilient and be that person that you want to be.
I mean, listening to you talk and listening to some of the things that you've gone through, I mean, I've only known you for half an hour, and just hearing you actually sent me a little bio on you and why you wanted to be on the show. And the minute I read your story, I was like, I need to know more about this girl. And Maria's right. You are very inspiring. You're more than inspiring. And I think you do have a great story to tell, and you will be changing lives one day, or in your case, one page after the next. So I'm really excited to see where your journey goes from here. And I know you can use your platform from pageantry as your voice is just going to get bigger from here. And so I'm really excited to see where it goes. I can only imagine a TED Talk from you one day, or something incredible like that. But you did mention earlier, you know, breaking labels and turning away from labels, because we hear it all the time, right? Like, I know for myself, reading is not my strongest know that when it came to like public speaking, I just have to wing it because I've always been told you're not the greatest reader. I was a phonics kid, I was taken out of class. So I understand where it comes from when people label you to not be able to do something. So what would your advice be to those who are listening right now or maybe later on? What is your sorry, I forgot what I was going to say. What is your advice to them on stepping away from labels and not listening to those people who are giving it to them?
I'm going to use my platform because my platform has become my life's mission, and it's not only become a pageant platform for me, it's my mission in life. And the one thing when I sat down and started doing my platform, it was like, okay, what advice can I give to people about how to live an authentically resilient life? And I came up with 4 pillars of how to be this resilient person. And the first one's respect. Not even having respect for yourself, but also respecting those around you. Because when you give respect to others, it is reciprocated. And I know there's certain circumstances where people aren't going to show you respect and people aren't going to treat you the way that you're going to treat them. And I know it's going to be extremely hard, but having that self-respect that I'm better than that and I'm better than what they're saying, respecting yourself in that way and using very respectful language to yourself and really telling yourself that, I can do this. And I know there's going to be days where you're going to be like, no, I don't want to get out of bed in the morning, but something as simple as even getting out of bed is a milestone. So treating everything with respect. The next one is empowerment. And again, this is goes both ways to yourself and also to others. Empower yourself. So I know a lot of people say do affirmations, but affirmations have gotten me to where I've been today. So to win my crown, I would repeat to myself every day, I am Michayla and I am your next Royal International Miss Canada. Using that language is so important, and using language like I am Michayla and I'm going to get into my master's no matter what. So changing that language is so important, using that empowering language in your everyday life. And then it's also, REAL also stands for action. So what can you do in the present moment to change what you're going through? So what language can you change? What lifestyle tip can you change? What thing can you implement to make your life better right now? And living in the moment, I suffer from very intense OCD. It is diagnosed. And where I've had to have a plan of 10 years to be comfortable with myself. And I've learned, the biggest thing I've learned is to take it day by day and to not focus on what am I going to do tomorrow? Think of what's going to happen right now, because living in the future, you're not going to accomplish anything. Living right now is where you're at. And then the last one is lifestyle. What lifestyle change can I make that will better my life? And the one thing that I've had to learn is to think about yourself. Don't think about what other people want from you. So I've had to make really hard decisions in my life where I've had to leave. I have no contact with my biological parents. So I had to make that hard decision to become a better version of myself. And to making those hard decisions, but putting you first. And I know it's going to be hard, but ensuring that your mental health and your perception of yourself comes first before anybody else.
Wow. You are one inspiring young woman. And I think, those who are labeled and have labels towards them or are just struggling mentally, I think they need to follow you. They need to find you somehow. And I mean, just listening to those really make you think of the impact that you're having on our lives today as well. Michayla, I was going to ask you for your 5 tips for a beauty queen, but you just gave me some amazing tips right there. So maybe I'll wait a little bit, unless your tips are similar. But I do want to ask our viewers, if you have any questions for Michayla, make sure you leave them in the live chats, because she is inspiring, and I'm sure you all have questions for her. But while we wait for questions, Michayla, earlier you just got off a work call
Yeah.
right before we went live. So what do you do for work?
I am a program facilitator, so I actually got my job through my platform. So I
Wow.
partnered with the Learning Disabilities Association of Halton Hamilton, and I actually partnered with them for more of like an empowering youth program and to speak to people. And I actually ended up applying to one of their positions as a facilitator for a program called Reading Rocks. And it's a program that helps children with reading disabilities. So every Monday and Wednesday, I get on the calls and basically I watch over the tutor pairs. I ensure that everything's going smoothly, but it's just great to work with students and seeing their progress through just small in the sessions for 8 weeks, and to see the development in some of these kids is crazy. I also am a facilitator with another program called SOAR Senior, and it's a program designed for grade 11 and grade 12 students with diagnosable disabilities, where it helps them prepare for post-secondary education. There is a huge, I want to say, lack in our education system, which is why I'm going into my master's, where people with disabilities and mental health are being put in this box where because you have a disability, you can't go to post-secondary education. There is like this massive stigma towards disabilities and education. And like for myself, like I was told I would never even get to where I was today. And so this program that I'm currently developing, it actually launches next week, is meant to inspire these kids to go and pursue whatever they want to. So it helps them each week, where we have presenters come in and they talk about their field, or they talk about the accessibility at post-secondary education that will support them in that way, and what accommodations are set forth, because there's so much opportunity for students with disabilities to inspire the world. And it's just so sad that, students with disabilities are put into that box. So my job, and as well as the LDAAH, is to take that box and destroy it, because ultimately we want kids to feel empowered to go and pursue whatever they want to do. So
That's amazing. I love that you're basically taking the things that were told to you and breaking the barriers and helping these kids. I think that's incredible. So if people actually wanted to learn more about the company and what you're starting, where can they find more information?
You can go and look us up. It's the Learning Disabilities of Halton Hamilton. We're based in Halton, so if you look on a map, Halton and Hamilton, they're kind of close to each other. But we are a smaller organization which provides a lot of programming. So our main goal is learning disabilities, but we also provide some services to other disabilities, such as on the autism spectrum. And a lot of our programming is geared towards helping these kids develop those skills that they might be lacking. So we actually have a program called Executive Functioning, and a lot of students with learning disabilities have that problem with executive functioning. They have this barrier where having too many tasks at once might be confusing or might be too overwhelming. This program is set in stone to help those students. I think it's about 4 weeks, but it helps these students really map out what they want and how to prioritize. And that's the one thing that I've learned throughout my education, is you have to, as someone with a learning disability as well, you have to take one thing at a time, because if you put on too much tasks, it can get very overwhelming. So it's teaching these kids basically those life skills that they need to succeed in life.
That's amazing. And it's definitely something that I'm sure they need right now, especially during this pandemic where everything is virtual. I know with a learning disability, already it's hard in the classroom, but to be doing everything virtually, I can only imagine. So thank you to your students for allowing you to jump on our call really quickly. I do appreciate that time. I do want to ask you, earlier you said that it took you until 2017 to open up about your story. What made you, or what inspired you to open up and share who you are with everyone?
it's always been really hard for me. I was diagnosed at 8 years old with a disability, and then I knew I always had mental health. I knew I suffered from something that was bigger than my disability, and I didn't know what that was. And it was in 2015 when I got my formal diagnosis, and it took me a long time. It took me from 2008 to 2015 to get a formal diagnosis of my mental health. And I notice now today my disabilities sometimes impact me. So one of the disabilities I have is a sensory processing disorder. So I am very sensitive to lights. I'm very sensitive to anything that irritate the senses. It bothers me. So I really wanted to know what my mental health was. That way I would be able to manage both the disability side and the mental health side. And then when they came out and told me that I think I have 5 mental health diagnoses.
Wow.
And it was almost like, for me, I went into this bubble where I was like, I felt ashamed. It was like, I have, all of these disabilities, I have all of these mental health. And then I started noticing that I was referring to myself as these things. So I would go to people and be like initially, like first conversation, I'd be like, I'm Michayla and I'm disabled. Or I'd be like, I'm Michayla and I have borderline personality disorder. Like, I would go and use these labels when I started talking to people. And then in 2017, I actually, I was still going through treatment for my self-harm. And it was that moment, that groundbreaking moment when I was like, I need to tell people about this. I need people to know, like, what exactly this is. And I ended up going through a very scary phase, and it was only last year. So last year, January, I was going through psychosis. And that is something that is if you look up what psychosis is, it's very scary. It's basically, you start hearing things, you start visualizing things that aren't there. It's very similar to symptoms of like schizophrenia or dissociative identity disorder. So I was going through that literally a year ago. And I was misdiagnosed as having dissociative identity disorder. And it wasn't until like right after that when I realized, like, I'm still using these labels. And it wasn't really until I got my Royal International Miss Southern Ontario crown when I really realized that, like, I need to tell people about this. I need people to know exactly what this is, because this is such a scary thing and such a severe thing that people need to learn about it. And to share my story, it was back in university. And I remember we put together a mental health conference, which is actually what I'm speaking at this weekend. But I was on the planning committee for the mental health conference, and I started telling the people close to me about my diagnosis. And they were like, you should share your story because it's something that people need to learn about. And I made the decision. I decided to blindfold myself and just talk to a group of 100 people. And when I left that stage, like, people were cheering for me and people were showing me so much kindness. And I realized, like, that was my breaking point to wanting to share my story, is this idea that people need to know exactly these things, and people are inspired by each other's stories. Like, I love when, followers send me messages and they're like, this is what I went through, and stuff you've said is so similar. Like, these things that we're all experiencing, someone else, and we learn from each other. And that's why I want to spread my story even further, because it's so important to learn these things. It's so important to connect with each other, to learn from each other, and to inspire each other to keep going.
And I think what, you opening up today also says a lot about you. I mean, Janice McGregor, she says, girl, you have to be one of the most brave and honest people out there. Much love and admiration, girl. So you are just, I'm going to keep using the word inspiration because it's really what you are. And this is also coming from another beauty queen. I mean, you are sharing your story. You are vulnerable with us. And I am so honored to have you here and to hear your story. And just like those thousands of people that clapped for you, we're all clapping for you. It takes a lot. And I mean, I can't imagine what how hard that must have been for you. But girl, you you are inspiring. You truly are. Um, I mean, I don't want to segue, but I do want to know, Michayla, I want to know, what are your top 5 tips for a beauty queen?
Honestly, be yourself. And the one thing I've learned is when I first got a coach is I always thought that my coach was going to get me there. I always thought like, my coach is the reason I'm going to win. And I love Maria. Like, honestly, Maria knows I call her my best friend because I meet with her like anywhere from 2 to 3 times a week. But I realized that no matter what, she can give me the skills that I need. She can tell me those tips, and she can tell me, all these things that she knows. But ultimately, what's going to get me the crown is being myself and believing in myself. And the one thing I'd say is have a platform, no matter what, because your platform will become so important to you, and it's like your life's mission. It's like your child. Like, I refer to Real Resiliency as my child because it's something I care about so much and I put my heart and soul into. So I would definitely say, like, if you have a story to tell, absolutely tell it. I know it's going to be scary at first, but people are going to want to know your story. And as you start promoting your platform, people are going to support you. So I think the one thing is like, platform, believe in yourself and your abilities. If you're somebody who has experienced any form of oppression, change that language. That's the one thing I will always say, is change the language of how you're viewing yourself, but also how you're viewing the world. I know the world is such a negative place to be. There's so much negativity, but being that positive light is going to get you so far. I would also say, just honestly believing in yourself. And ultimately what I feel like got me the crown was me being myself, me being vulnerable, me also community service. That is something I believe in, but not everybody likes it. You don't have to be as crazy as me. Like, I volunteer on 6 clubs outside of, being a full-time student and working full-time. So you don't have to be as crazy and invested in me, but find an organization which can help you achieve your goals as well. And find people in pageantry who you can rely on. So I have a few of the pageant queens out there who they know who they are, who really I can go to during pageant week and be like, hey, I need to just let go. I need to rant. Get those people in pageantry and establish those friendships, because ultimately some of my best friends have come out of pageantry. Like, a lot of my best friends that I can honestly say are people who I'm going to be friends with in 10 years have come from my pageant experience. So I've lost count by now, but
No, those are great tips from you. And I think what I'm going to do is, as most of you who follow my Instagram know, I do put clips of your top 5, but I think I'm going to take your other 5 plus this 5 and put them together, because, girl, I'm creating your TED Talk and I want people to hear your story and hear you speak. So thank you for those tips. What is your plans? I'm just going to digress a little bit. I can't speak today. I do want to know, because you mentioned RIM is happening in July. So what are you doing, to prepare yourself for the international pageant?
A lot of pageant prep. So it's been crazy because, usually the RIM title holders would have a whole year to prepare. We only get a certain amount of months. I think there's like 100 and like, I don't even know. There's less than 150 days until I fly out. So it's like fast track. So as soon as I got the title, it was like, okay, so like measurements have to be in, like payments have to be in. But I think the one thing is like trying to keep grounded a lot, but also trying to stay true to my platform is something that I'm working on. And as much as I would like to be like, oh my gosh, I want to compete in so many optionals and I want to compete in all of this and really focus on everything I'm going to do at internationals, the one thing that I'm going to be doing is staying true to my platform. So you'll see a lot for all of those who follow me. I have a lot of exciting things happening. I have a lot of launches for certain things for my platform that will be coming up that I'm very excited to be doing for internationals, but I've never competed internationally before. So this is a whole new experience for me. This is also my first time winning a national title. So it's just trying to be excited, but also trying to calm myself down, because sometimes I feel like it's not real still. Sometimes I feel like I'm still like Southern Ontario, and I'm like, girl, you're Miss Canada. You need to get that in your mind. But really just staying true to myself. Also, like, you know, I'm buying outfits like crazy, but trying not to buy everything I see.
Yes.
But really staying positive. And the one thing that I've learned is trying not to compare myself to other delegates, because that will not get me anywhere. So that's the main things that I'm working on.
And it's great that you get to, you know, Maria is your coach, but she's also in Team Canada with you. So you must be so excited to have, you know, Maria, your best friend, there with you competing together.
It's going to be so nice, because I know me, and I know, you know, bringing it back to mental health, I know that during pageant week, I will get overwhelmed, especially with my sensory deficit. Those type of things will get me very like overwhelmed, kind of frantic. So having somebody there in my corner and all of Team Canada, honestly, like all the girls on my team are phenomenal. But I know like having those connections there and having people that are there to support me and who will help keep me grounded is going to be so nice. And, you know, really, you know, Canada's coming to represent this year. We have a very big team, so it's going to be very nice. And to room with her too is even good.
That's amazing. I'm really excited to see how you both do. I had Maria on the show a few weeks ago, so I'm really excited to see both of you and all of Team Canada do amazing. So, Michayla, how does it feel for you to also be an Indigenous woman representing Canada?
It's very special. Honestly, I grew up not in my Indigenous heritage, so that's something that bothered me. I didn't know my biological father for majority of my life, and I still don't really know, but it was hard for me because people would ask me and be like, what's your background? And I would look at them and be like, I don't know. Like, I simply don't know. Like, a lot of people had their guesses of what I was, and it always bothered me because my friends would say, like, this is my background, and like they would be just so immersed in their culture, and it really bugged me because I was like, I don't know who I am. And it was a huge piece of me that was missing. And it wasn't until I found my background and it found my community of people, like my where my res is at, like they're super accommodating. They are so nice. And to be able, especially at a time right now where Indigenous people aren't being heard, and it's really sad and what's going on, and you know, being able to represent everything that Indigenous people have and being able to be that pillar of hope for people, and just being able to be an Indigenous woman representing Canada is just so special to me. And you know, it's a culture that I didn't grow up in, but it's now part of who I am and who I identify as, and it's just so incredibly exciting. It's just finally having that culture is just so nice, and having that community of support, especially from like, all of my Indigenous friends and my Indigenous res out there. They are so important to me, and they honestly support me no matter what. And I'm just so excited to be Indigenous and to be representing Canada, and it's just so incredibly exciting.
That's amazing. Listening to you talk about that, you know the show Who Do You Think You Are on TLC, where they find out who they really are and the journey that they went on. I felt like I was just listening to one of those stories. And it's just incredible. And I think, you know, you are an amazing woman. I've known you we're on social media for a while, but in person and talking for less than an hour, and I feel like I know so much about you already, but I do want to continue to know more about you. And so for people like me who want to know more about Michayla, where can they find you online?
My Instagram, so it's MISS, so Miss, and then my name is very awkward, so it's MICHAYLA, and then a lowercase d, and then an underscore. So that's my, I don't know what to call it, like username.
Yes.
But honestly, that the one thing that my goal is for my social media is to show more who I was, because I thought that I wasn't funny enough. I wasn't, pretty enough for social media. And the one thing that I'm starting to do is be more present on my social media. So if you would like to follow my story, like, go ahead and follow. I post stuff every day, ranging from what I'm doing to my platform. So I have things like Empowerment Wednesday, I have Write It Down Wednesday, I have Did You Know Tuesdays. So I have different theme days that are all geared towards resiliency. So go check it out. Even if you don't want to follow me, but my platform is just something that, if you're looking for that inspiration, if you're looking for something that will make you feel good, go and follow my page, and I promise you will not be disappointed.
You definitely don't disappoint. I've been looking at your social media for a bit now, and I think everything that you post is very inspiring. So make sure you guys go follow her on Instagram after the show, and make sure you follow her journey, because, like I said, this girl's gonna have a TED Talk, or, I mean, you're already speaking at an event this weekend. Did you just, after that blindfold experience for you, was that an opening for you to just, like, was that a wake up call for you to be like, I want to talk in front of people, I want to share my story?
Yeah, it was like this weekend, like I talked back when it first launched. So it was, I think it was like 2017 or 2018 when I did my talk, and that was about my story. And it was just like, the amount of positivity that I got was amazing. And this weekend I'll be going into a lot about what I'm diagnosed with and what symptoms I'm experiencing. And then I'm going into basically how I manage those symptoms. So I'll give you a sneak peek, but I developed a kind of a mental health care kit. So for those who really need that, who experience a lot of panic attacks or even sensory attacks on a daily basis, these are just some of the things that I carry, and I really want to promote that as much as possible for mental health, because it's a lot of people think that it's a shame to have mental health. It's not. It's just a part of who you are. Like, I have very intense OCD, so everything needs to be in line with each other. My life has to be planned. I also have borderline personality disorder. I have generalized anxiety disorder. I have persistent depressive disorder. I also have my learning disability. I used to have a communication disability, but it's not there anymore. But the one thing is, like, auditory processing difficulties, and then I also have my sensory, like, overload.
Wow.
So my goal is to develop kits that people can use on a day-to-day basis, that they can have on them as a security blanket, because I know, for some people who have social anxiety, like, how terrifying that is. Like, I know a friend of mine who has social anxiety, and she can't even go to her classes in university because she's so scared of just that prejudice. So I actually told her about the kit that I've been starting to kind of put together, and ever since that, she was telling me, she's like, girl, I literally went to class. She's like, I even got on the call and I went to class. I had your kit nearby, and like, so just being able to, like, help people like that is just really, really opens my heart. And, like, for anyone listening, if you need someone to hear your story, message me. I'm always interested in hearing other people's stories and seeing where other people come from. It's just absolutely amazing. So yeah.
That's amazing. I think right now, especially in the world of this pandemic, where it doesn't seem to end, but you think it's going to end, I know anxiety, especially right now, is so high, and talking about mental health is sometimes can still be cliche, and I don't think it should be. So I think your care kits are going to be a hit, and I'm going to look forward to following your journey and seeing where it goes, and I think you're going to do amazing this weekend. Can anyone join in onto your talk, or is it for a specific group
So
only?
I'm not sure entirely. In the past, it's been you have to pay for it. If anybody wants to join, I highly recommend it. You can follow, I believe it's at, and then it's Psychsoc. So it's like
Okay.
ESYC, and then let me look it up.
Actually, you know what? If it's easier, you can give it to me at the end of the show, and then I'll put it in the link in the description below.
Okay, yeah. So they're a student-run organization at the University of Guelph, which is the university I went to, and since starting it, they've done it for 3 or 4 years now, and it's basically you will hear talks from students, you'll hear talks from alumni, you'll hear talks from people who are professionals in the field of mental health. So it's such a great event, and I'm excited to see how it goes online because they've never done it online before, but I'm super excited to be able to have that opportunity to just talk about my diagnosis, how I experienced all of these things, and how I cope. So I'm extremely excited.
I'm excited for you. I just think it's so amazing what you're doing and using your voice and using your platform for the better of the world because, like I said earlier, the world needs more people like you, especially during these times. The world needs more people like you, Michayla, but I also want to know what is next for Michayla. You know, you have RIM, you have your book. What can we expect from you in the next couple of months or years? I know you said you have 10 years planned, so what's on that list?
So yeah, I recently found out that I got into my master's. So
Amazing.
I'm super excited. I applied on, like I said, on a whim. I didn't think I was gonna get in, but I did. So I'm actually going to Wilfrid Laurier University.
Amazing.
It is in Waterloo. That's where I'll be going. And so it's for my Master's of Education with a concentration in Student Affairs. So I'm actually going to be working with Dr. Kathleen Clark, who is amazing. She does research in anything and everything disability and post-secondary education. So we're hoping to do research. I haven't kind of figured out a title for it yet, but it's along the lines of how post-secondary education facilities can help prepare students with disabilities for a career. So whether that's establishing more clubs, whether that's more accommodations, whether that's specific courses. So we're going to be working on stuff like that. But the end goal for me is I want to get into my doctorate. So hopefully that's in 3 years. But I want to
Let's
get
change
into my
that. Let's change that. You said hopefully. You
Yeah.
will get there.
Yeah, I will. But I want to get into my Doctor of Philosophy in Educational Leadership and Policy. So basically my end goal is to be a president of a university or a college. So that's kind of what's in store in terms of my academics. In terms of my career, I want to advance in the company that I'm already in. I absolutely love the association that I work for and their mission. They are literally me in an organization. So I want to advance through them. I'm really excited to launch this program, SOAR Senior. So I'm hoping that will take off very successfully. And in terms of pageant prep, in terms of pageants, my goal, and I'm gonna be a little cocky, but my next goal is to be either Royal International Miss or Royal International Miss Role Model. So I want to take home the international crown for Canada, but I also want to do so much more with the title. And one of the things I really want to do is there are so many children out there who are homeless. There's so many youth that are homeless in Canada and also in the States that they have nowhere to go. And what I want to do is I want to provide them with the opportunity to gain scholarships. I also want to give them the opportunity to have care kits, that they can even have a pillow to sleep on, because most kids get turned away from youth shelters now because they're fully capacitated. So my goal with the international title is I want to do so much more, and I want to help those vulnerable people so badly, and especially homeless youth. That's one thing I really want to do with the international title. But I also, like you said, a TED Talk is going to be in the future eventually. And just spreading more resiliency in the world. That's what's on the agenda for me right now.
That's amazing. So, Michayla, earlier you were talking about words of affirmation and claiming your title. So, as we wrap things up here, can you just give us a great one?
Like, I would just, one of the things that I love to say to myself is, I'm enough. And also be you, be real, be resilient, because, you know, that's my book. But keep saying that I am enough, and also saying things that, say you want to be the next title holder of a certain pageant. Say your name and your title. Don't say why, just say that you're going to be that, because once you say it, it's almost like the universe knows.
Yep.
And really just the I am enough is the biggest thing I want to emphasize out there, is because I know it's so cliche and I know people say it all the time, but it truly is. Like, you are enough for success and you are enough to accomplish greatness. And no matter what anybody says to you, you are able to do that. You are able to get to that goal, no matter how long it takes. Like, when I was younger, I always aspired to go into my master's. And even though it took me a little bit longer, it took me maybe a year or two longer, but I got there. So, like, knowing that you can get there no matter what. Like, even it was funny when I was younger, if you asked me at 3 years old what I wanted to be when I grew up, I said it every time until I was like 5 that I was going to be a princess. And honestly, I can say that I am now. So, but just believing in yourself and believing in your abilities. Your abilities are what are going to get you far. And I know, like, for people with disabilities, you don't have a disability, you have a difference. And that is something I really want to emphasize, is changing that language to a difference. You have a difference, not a disability, and it's not going to disable you, it's going to help you. Those things are going to help you. So
That's amazing. And Michayla, you are enough. That is 100% true, but you are also more than enough. And I think everything that you said is just so inspiring. Like, you have inspired me, you have inspired Janice, you have inspired all of those who are tuned in. And I'm sure you've inspired Michayla. You've also inspired Maria as well. So thank you for sharing your story with me here today, and to all of our listeners. I'm so excited to see where your journey takes you. I'm excited to see the new crown, whether it be one or the other, on your head. I'm excited to just see where life takes you and to see the difference that you make in the world, because you're already making one. And I'm just so grateful that you found the courage to share your story, because not everyone does that. So thank you for being here with me tonight. Is there any last words you want to share with our audience today before we wrap things up?
be you, be real, be resilient, and
Amazing.
Follow me on Instagram.
Amazing. So, to all of you who tuned in, thank you for watching another episode of the Pageant Sit Down. Thank you to Michayla for sharing her story with us tonight. For all of you who are watching, if you liked this video, please make sure you thumbs up and like it. If you want more content like this, make sure you subscribe to this channel, because I do go live every Monday and Wednesday, and I do bring on beauty queens from all different parts of the world, of different walks of life. And again, Michayla, thank you so much for being here today, and thank you to your students for letting you join me today. I really do appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I appreciate it so much.
And for that, thank you everyone for watching, and we will see you all on Monday. Bye.